Hello, everybody, and welcome again to DIY Startup with your host, John Ash. Must be Friday, must be 8 o'clock, because we're back here again, seems like. Okay, everybody, I see I have some viewers. That's pretty good, so let me know how I'm doing in the chat. Please let me know if video and audio are okay. Thanks a lot for that. Let's see. This chat is welcome. In fact, the intention that I had when I first started the channel was to have a little community to go on so that you guys could actually use this as a jump off point to meet each other, maybe make some connections on my live stream, which would be very thrilling for me. This EDE Society is all about getting entrepreneurs to meet entrepreneurs and about discovering the resources that they have available to them. People don't know it. They think you're doing it alone. You're not doing it alone. There's lots of places that you can get help. DIY Startup happens to be one of them. I'm willing to help you out. So this series is geared toward the person with a good idea who wants to make a successful business. No business training at all, but there's a couple of things that you have to understand and open up your eyes to before you can create a successful enterprise. Before you can create a successful enterprise, a couple of things that you have to keep in mind. Hopefully, by building a series of these small shows, these small seminars every week, we do this all together, we can put together like a little library of easy knowledge that anybody could apply to any kind of business you're starting up. Now, this isn't for someone who has business training or a degree or super professional. This is for somebody who's just getting off the ground, somebody who may be in their basement just like me, who's trying to start a successful enterprise, which I have done. Just using these small things and trying to give you the knowledge that I had to learn and all the pains that I had to go through and just the things that I had to open up my eyes to, trying to give you that kind of shared knowledge so you can use it to get ahead, to further your product, service, any of the things that you are going to offer. Now, it just so happens that most of the people that I come across that are entrepreneurs that I know happen to produce products. So this show is geared for people who produce products. There are products you could produce. You could be an entrepreneur to produce services. I know very successful entrepreneurs that produce service where they help other companies. So companies hire them as consultants, and they go in and give them good business advice. That's fantastic. It's great entrepreneurial um, skills are needed to run those things. A store is a great entrepreneurial endeavor. Very risky one, a tricky one I happen to don't like because I don't like dealing with the public. I think that's very risky. But everybody who's ever opened up a store on their own, I give you tremendous amount of credit because that is one challenging thing. We could actually have a whole episode on that if you want to. The video and audio is scratchy. The video is good. Okay, good. Thanks, Janine, for saying that. I think that was good. Well, okay, people are texting me too. Very confusing. Very confusing world. They got a lot to do, you know? There's a lot of vectors for bother in this world. The phone happens to be one of them. Anyway, going back to that, this series of shows is geared for the person who is just starting off. Got to think of a couple of things. Keep a couple of things in mind. You know, in 2020, 2021, as it were, it's very easy to project yourself as a large company. In the old days, it was very difficult to do that. Now you can have multiple phone lines on the same phone. You can have multiple email addresses. You can have a gorgeous website. All that stuff will make you seem like a big company, and that's great, really good. But you have to have the business sense of a big company to do that too. And you know, in this show, boy, what are some of the topics that we talked about so far? We talked about business life in contemporary times, right? How to, website, how to manage social media, videos, and things like that. We talked about styling and branding, which is very important, especially when you're starting off. Fantastic. As far as I see it, this whole series should be watched episode by episode by everybody. Just with no business training, you want to start a business, watch these things. We talked about funding. That was a great one. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about crowdsourcing versus venture capital. Take a look at that one. I think it's about a whole hour. I talked about all this kind of stuff. Where to get money from, because that's a very important problem that entrepreneurs happen to have. I know that. And sometimes I have that problem too. Talked about a lot of stuff. I think this is the 6th episode. That's pretty good. 6, 7 weeks. I think I skipped a week. So that's 7 episodes total that we went through. Basic ideas on how to be an entrepreneur and how to run your own business and bring your idea into fruition in this world. Now there's a lot to compete with. That's okay. We can actually talk about that too. Today we're going to talk about something that's very interesting. I'll show you what. Maybe more slides. Okay. Let me see. Don't forget the old stuff. How and why to support old products, services, and customers. So while you are getting your big idea off the ground, it might just be that. It might just be a big idea. And you have to get that. You want to try to get that going as soon as possible. You have an idea for a product that you think could make you $1 million. You have an idea for a service. You want to try to engage customers, things like that. It's a fantastic idea, but you have to keep in mind that at some point, chances are pretty good your original product, your original idea, your original service is going to either go outdated or change a little bit, or because of customer demand, which I could actually put in one of the slides if I got that one. Customer demand, investor pressure. There's a lot of reasons why your business might pivot to something else. It might change slightly or change all the way. You know, sometimes businesses change completely, and they have to make sure that you keep that in mind. That if you have any one of these kind of industries or products or services, you're gonna have to kind of build it with the change in mind, because chances are pretty good. Your original idea won't be that original very long, I hate to say. So you have to plan for change. Very important. Okay, new ideas are great while they're new. Your idea might be the best thing ever. What are you going to do next? It always has to be the next idea. It always has to be the next product. You might want to expand your product lines. You might get really good at something and then figure out that you're good at something else. You want to add that to your product suite. You might get new skills. If you're a consultant for businesses, you might actually get a couple of new skills, like designing web pages or designing products or something like that. You want to add that into your business portfolio. You got to kind of like plan for change. Always plan that your original idea is not going to be the one that you stick with very long. For instance, I'll bet you didn't know that YouTube started as a dating site at first. Back in the day, they were trying to be a dating site where people would put like a little video of themselves, just like the old dating shows up there, and try to attract people to internet date when the internet was very young. You know? Should have seen it when I was a kid. But what happened was that adapted into people putting very funny videos and very creative videos up of themselves in lieu of their interview, trying to attract people. And then that became a collection of funny and interesting things that people were putting up. And the next thing you know, 15 years later, we turn into YouTube, which happens to be this giant repository of human knowledge. I hope that aliens don't get a hold of that, because the funny people are crazy. So let's look at some industries that do change. Things that always change. Okay. Information technology and networking always changes. The hottest things in networking are always different. A year makes a big difference. In information technology, a year is like a whole light. It's like a whole light year. Think about it that way. Prices of things are dropping, and I wouldn't even know how to advise anybody to get into information technology or networking field unless you're very, very well versed. You have to keep up with things, meaning that you have to go to all these virtual shows. You have to reach out to all of these companies to try to get their product updates. You have to kind of keep in line with all of this stuff. Not a very easy thing to do, especially if you're trying to run your business. So what I'm talking about is the person who gets who feels that they're good at information technology or networking, feels good at networking. Okay, great. So you got a couple of ideas about how to revitalize some networks. Or you just get somebody who wants to hire you to revamp their network, like a college campus or a hospital or I don't know, something, or a chain of delis or something, a sandwich shops or something like that. So you get them hiring. Now you have to open up a business. Next thing you know, you're in the information technology and networking segment. So you're trying to keep up with all that stuff. Every day you're trying to like go there and make sure that this laundromat has internet connectivity and the best stuff and the POS and manage all this stuff. Meanwhile, underneath your feet, everything is kind of changing. All the technology and all the pricing and all this stuff is changing. It's going to happen. If you plan for it, when you're first making your new ideas, it won't surprise you, and you'll have an easier time adjusting and figuring out a new direction for your business. And I think that is great. Internet of Things. Oh boy. Don't get me started on the IoT. Internet of Things is great. 10 years ago, they promised to be billions and trillions. Oh, the Internet of Things. Oh, it's going to be great. Well, 10 years later, nobody's actually found out a really, I feel nobody's really found out an actually useful purpose for the Internet of Things. I mean, I know that a lot of vineyards use IoT networking to make their grapes just right. And I know that in the cannabis industry, there's a lot of IoT sensors and things like that to make the growing cycles optimized. And I know that there are a lot of smart building services where they deploy sensors inside the buildings in order to control the lighting more efficiently and things like that, and put a glossy face on building management. I don't know, to try to like make them think that they're ahead of it in the future. But I have seen a lot of IoT platforms not fail, but get swept away and go out of business. And next thing you know, as a building owner, you invested $60,000-$70,000 in all of these smart sensors for your building. All of a sudden the platform goes under. There are 2 or 3 lighting platforms I know that went under not long ago recently. IoT platforms, over time, they're very, very long to run, very, very expensive to run over the long run. Expensive to run over the long run. And I know that the margins are very tight on that stuff. So people have, inventors have fantastic ideas on ways to optimize building smartness or refrigerator smartness, but all of that IoT has to run on a back-end platform, has to run on some kind of platform, and it takes money to keep going. So IoT. So if you start in the IoT segment, and you know that eventually you're going to have to change, your business is going to have to pivot, something's going to shift, something's going to happen in the IoT world where a new protocol comes out, like the protocol after protocol. I'll tell you, with the Internet of Things. How did it start? First, it started with Wi-Fi, where all the devices were on the Wi-Fi networks. And then right after that, it went to Bluetooth because BT5 and Bluetooth mesh became very popular. So everybody wanted to mesh their lighting for some reason. Oh, it's gonna be great with the lighting on the mesh. Now it's a LoRa. All of that information collection and tracking has to go back up into a service in the cloud. And if you start your Internet of Things service or products, understanding that at some point it's going to become very expensive to run and maintain all of these old customers and all these old products and all these old services, you start with that in mind. I believe that you'll have a better experience in the end. Let's see. Let's check in with the chat. Here we go. This is fun. This is fun. This is fun. I don't know about you guys. This is fun. Let's see. Ooh. Lauren's in the chat. She says hello. Oh, she even added EDE societies. That's very nice. So in the live chat, which I hope you guys will live chat, in the live chat, if you put at EDE society, it gets highlighted over there, and then I can see what you guys say. Puff names yourselves. I got 8, 9, 10, 11 concurrent viewers. That's pretty good this time. Okay. Get back into it. That's good. Everybody says that the connection is excellent and all that. I'm pretty happy to see that too. What are some reasons why your business might pay? Let's see. Investor pressure. That's the main thing that drives a business direction, as far as I'm concerned. You go out and get venture capitalism. The investor has the last word on most things. That's good and that's bad. So if the investor comes in and you have a meeting, monthly meeting, quarterly meeting, and the investor says, okay, great, we're going to turn this company into a IoT company, or we're going to stop supporting our old thing. We're going to go to this new idea I had. Investors do it all the time. I just read an article about 5G. Oh my God, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to get into 5G. And all the developers will sit at the table and they say, well, wait a minute, we were developing for LoRa. We can't develop for 5G. Well, you have to do it. It's not a thing that you can say, I'm not going to do it. You have to, you got to pivot your business. Funding pressure. So again, like I said, a lot of these IoT platforms go into funding. They run into funding pressure because they get very expensive to run over time. That's a pretty interesting one. So a lot of services and contracts too might get under funding pressure. So if you have a service contract to let me see. Let's say that you decide to service boilers. Great. You have a nice little business. You don't want to be a plumber. You don't want to deal with oil. You don't want to install boilers. But what you want to do is start a small company to service boilers, to a little annual inspection and change the filters and service them, go fix them when they're out. Beautiful little idea. I tell you, fantastic little idea for a little quick business if you know how to do all that stuff. You might create annual contracts with customers to service their boilers. You might say, you know what's going to be different? We're going to do a price lock. Yeah, that's what's going to make us different. We're going to have a price lock guarantee where you're going to have a 3-year contract with us, price lock guarantee. So customers happen to like that because they like to be able to anticipate future, how much the contract is going to cost in the future. So you say, we're going to give you a 3-year lock contract. That's fantastic. That's what we're going to be doing different. Everyone else gives a 1-year contract. We're going to give a 3-year contract. Sign it and forget it. We'll come every year, twice a year, and service your boiler. You don't even have to think about it. Take all the pressure off of boiler service. Leave it to us. We're experts. Actually, is there anybody that has that? I would like to get on that. Well, what happens is over time, over the 3 years that you're doing boiler servicing, costs go up, laws change. Next thing you know, you have to provide healthcare benefits for your workers, and that's an added expense. The minimum wages go up, and that's an added expense. And tools, the price of tools or the price of materials go up. Those little tiny filters, those little screen filters, because they're made in China, they decide to impose a tariff on those little filters, and they go from $3 to $17. All of a sudden, now your margins are getting slimmer and slimmer, and that leads to funding pressure. So you might have to keep that in mind when you're making long-term contracts. So that's one reason for business pivoting. So you go, well, to offset those bad contracts, we have to do something else. Let's start doing water filter maintenance. Oh my God, it's great. Water filter maintenance. So you go, oh, good, we're going to install water filters in everybody's house. Who doesn't want a water filter? The water softening systems that you, if you have a well pump or something, you need a water softening. So we're going to diversify. We're going to pivot. In fact, that's a really good business example. Let me go to a main screen around so I can talk to you a little bit more about that. So let's take the business that starts off as a boiler servicing business. That's all they want to do. 2 or 3 years down the line, in order to back up their funding pressure, they have to pivot and they have to change to installing those water softening systems that houses often get. Beautiful. It's good. It's a good transition. Same kind of skills, same kind of tool set. In fact, the guys that do boilers probably can easily handle the plumbing, the simple plumbing that's involved in a water softening system. So you get a company that pivots. Now, look at that right there. So you have a company that handles services boilers. Let's say they're called John's Boilers. 3 years later, they want to pivot their company and they want to do water softeners too. So they're still known as John's Boiler. It's a huge problem. They could tackle on John's Boiler and water softeners too, water conditioning systems too, or they could change their company name. Or if they're smart, you could start with this advice right here. Plan for change. So new ideas are great while they're new, right? So you started a boiler company, you name it John's Boilers. Next thing you know, you are trying to pivot your business to something else, and your name doesn't really fit the industry that you're in anymore. Popular, very, very popular problem to have, but there's a good example of it. If you plan for change and you know that chances are pretty good in the next couple of years, your business is going to have to pivot from one to the other. Do that from the beginning, you'll have an easier time. You won't be that surprised. Let's go back to this. Technology advances. Okay, we talked about the IoT and the IoT platforms changing, protocols changing, all that stuff. We talked about networking. How if you're a networking company, chances are pretty good the technology is going to advance. That's going to cause you to have to pivot your company a little bit. Even if you're doing in the same industry, but you want to work on a different portion of it, that's still a pivoting. You're not doing the original intention that you had. You're not fulfilling the original ideas that you set off with. You're kind of like doing this and that. That's pivoting, and the technology advances. If you plan for it, it won't surprise you. Trends change and advance. People's preferences change. I mean, look what happened just a year or so ago. Who would have known? You can't go in the store anymore. Shop for things. Strange. So trends change and advance. Keep that in mind. If you start your business knowing that chances are pretty good in a while I'm going to have to change or pivot, you'll have an easier time doing that, especially if you plan ahead a little bit. While you're filling and refining your present ideas, you're also looking in the future to think about how can I come up with some new ideas. So that's really good advice. If you start out like that, it won't really surprise you as much as it could. Pretty good. 15 viewers. That's good. We got more viewers. Thanks a lot for coming out. Again, if you just joined DIY Startup, my name is John Ash. Every Friday I get together with you guys and talk about good general business practice. This DIY Startup is geared towards just a guy who has a person who has a good idea, who wants to build it into a successful enterprise. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about common sense business, I guess, for the everyman, common clay. All right. Let's get back into the slideshow. I only got a couple of more slides. I'm kind of running out of steam myself here. All right, let's see. How to plan when knowing you have to change. I don't know what that, maybe I didn't put that slide together correctly. So I guess it's how to start. Can I change that? Would it be shabby if I went back and changed that? And knowing you will have to change. Let's try that. Very thrilling seeing me editing my slides. How to start while knowing you will have to change. Maybe that's not getting the point across, but I'll talk a little bit about it. Maybe it'll make more sense. Okay, so before we talked about the naming and styling to allow for change. So we talked about if you name your company John's Boilers and you decide to pivot your business into water conditioning systems or septic systems, your name is still John's Boiler. So people will expect to see something other than that on the truck when they call you. So if they call you to fix a septic tank and a truck with John's Boilers on the side shows up, people aren't going to really like that. So if you pick a name that will allow you to pivot in the future, right when you're at the start, it won't really surprise you. Styling, right? If you have a bunch of pipes on the side of your truck, and then your plumbing pipes painted on the side of your truck with this beautiful, expensive wrap, 2 years later you decide to go into fixing internet in people's houses, to deploying Orbeez in people's houses to help them fix the internet. You're going to get a startling reminder of what your customers are expecting when they look out the window and see pipes on the side of your truck, and they say, what is that? I mean, you could always brush it off. You can always play it off and say, oh, it's internet pipes. Oh yeah, that's how the data travels. Whatever. But very difficult. If you know in the beginning that chances are pretty good you might have to pivot, you can pick a more generic name and pick a more generic style. Unless you're just really committed to, I don't know, plumbing. So, okay. Second thing, can I take a look at that? I just moved the window. It was in the way, so I kind of moved myself. I moved. I did. I just saw it. Okay, we're back at this. Back at the. Oh, wait a minute. Go back into this. How to start? Well, no. Okay, great. Build contracts with a provision revisit every so often. Okay, so you might want to, if you want to do a long-term contract, which is a good idea. I mean, there's no better thing, I feel, for a company to have than reoccurring billing. Reoccurring billing is golden egg of companies. So you get customer base and you send them out a bill every month, and they faithfully pay it on time just like they're supposed to. That is exactly what you want for your enterprise. You want to have a group of customers with a contract, and every month they pay, or annual subscription. You want to have them paying every month loyally. This way you can plan for your expenses and things like that, and that makes everything so much easier when you know you have cash rolling in. Most of the times, biggest headache is cash. Run a small business? Yeah, you're going to be thinking about cash all the time. Even if you're cutting keys, let's say you have a little small locksmith business. Oh, you think about cash all the time. You think about how much of these keys cost, how much does it actually take for me to cut the key, how often do customers come in? You have to do all of that stuff. Cash is going to be a big part of holding your nerve as far as running a small business or a big business. So you want to build a provision to revisit every so often in the contracts. Let's say you form a 3-year contract. You might want to think about putting a revisitation every 6 months. Okay, every 6 months we're going to revisit the services and products that we provide. And if both agree on it, then we'll continue with the contract. If not, then the contract, that's a safe point where both parties can call a premature stop to the contract with no harm, no foul. So the 3-year contract, every 6 months we get together, have a call, and we revisit the services and products to figure out if you're happy or if I'm happy or if we're going to change what we do, because things change. Every 6 months there's a soft break in the contract where if you want to terminate that contract, you can, with no penalty, no harm, no foul on both sides. Both sides agree. Not a bad idea. You got to think about that stuff. People sign 3-year, people form these 3-year contracts with no revisitation, provision revisit, and put you in a corner. And it actually causes all that other stuff like the funding pressure and the investor pressure and all of this stuff, and pivot, and oh man, all of these things happen. Set the product or your service warranty with a deadline. So if you're selling products, you're selling something, you don't want to say it's guaranteed. You might not want to say it's guaranteed for life. You sell a product like, I have a lot of products here. You create your IoT sensor for the refrigerator. You create a sensor that counts. I got a good one for you. If anybody wants $1 million, I'll give you $1 million. You create a small sensor that sits in your refrigerator, takes a battery every 2 or 3 years, and it counts every time the light comes on and light goes off. Light goes on and light goes off. So it counts how many times that your refrigerator opens in a day. Okay, great. So what? Well, you plot that on a chart that you can access by an app. So you start to look at how many times your refrigerator opens and closes every single day. So you start to know that your refrigerator opens more times in the summertime and less times in the wintertime, or more times after 3 p.m. and less time during the middle of the night. You can figure out if somebody is having a midnight snack. But that's a pretty good one. So you create your little refrigerator monitor. I don't know what you want to call it. So you count how many times your refrigerator door opens and closes. If you make that product and say, oh, it's guaranteed for life, or you don't specify anything, the customer will understand or assume that the product will last, be supported, and or replaced for forever. 15 years later, you might get an email saying my refrigerator monitor stopped working. Next thing you know, you have to come up with a new refrigerator monitor from someplace. So you got to start digging around through the drawers trying to find one. Because people assume if you say nothing about the guarantee or warranty on the product, people assume that it's going to be supported forever. You might want to set the product or service warranty with a deadline. It might be in there somewhere deep in the end user license agreement, which a lot of companies do, saying that after 3 years, there's pretty much a crapshoot whether or not we're going to support your product anymore. You say that, and you know what? I bet you that if you had a refrigerator monitor, I'm pretty much willing to bet that whoever buys it won't use it after a year or two. I don't think anybody's going to look at a refrigerator monitor as a long-term investment. So I don't think you're going to have to support that more than buy it. But you might want to explicitly say that there's some kind of a service warranty or product warranty, something. Damn dirty. For an in-depth look at recurring billing strategies, I recommend the book Subscribe by Tian Su. Okay, that's good advice right there. I'll put I guess it's a buy thing. Hello, John. Great show. Thank you, Dan. Nice. Thanks for being here. Recurring billing strategies. That's pretty good. We can have an episode on that if you'd like to. What about recurring billing strategies? I think it's a fantastic idea. Contracts and things like that. Maybe I could get somebody that's an expert on that. Yeah. Who can I get that's an expert on forming recurring billing strategy contracts? But I do know that I have a lot of recurring bills in my life. I like to get rid of some of them, but for business, I think that recurring billing is basically kind of where you want to be. Oh my God, look how many we got 21 concurrent viewers. Isn't that fantastic? Thanks, guys. Let me know how I'm doing in the chat. You can talk to each other, by the way, if you can see it. Subscribe. Thanks, Dan. Thanks a lot for that. All right, so let me see. I have anything else to say. Let me go back to my face and click that. Forget the old stuff. Don't forget. Don't forget. Don't forget. Don't forget not to forget. Pretty good. That's pretty good again. So you can go back on our other seminar we had, the other video we had on styling and branding. You can look at a couple of things I said in there about how excuse me. Look at some of the things that we talked about there as far as strategies for establishing a look and style and how to plan for the future. So what are some other, let's see, what are some other things that change? Let's see, let's go back to this other slide for a minute. Let's have a little discussion about some other industries that change. That you might want to think about pivoting on. Information technology, if you're a PR person, if you start a public relations, if you start an internet, any kind of internet business, like a social media business. Let's say you have a small business that you consult with companies in order to manage and develop their social media presence. You know that's going to change You got to really keep up with that. In fact, I don't really see that staying the same for more than the 2 years at a time, especially now. Things change. You really got to keep up with that stuff. So you might have to pivot your business if you're in that kind of an industry. You might have to decide that instead of just doing social media, you do this other thing, marketing, or you do promotional products, which I'm pretty much sure promotional products are done because you can't give anything anymore these days. What are some other? If anybody comes up with any of sectors that change a lot, you have to, if you get involved in that, you might change a lot. Put it in the chat right there. These technology networking, legal doesn't really change all that much. Finance, financial advisors don't really change all that much. I mean, you have to keep up with a lot. You have to keep a lot of laws in mind, and that changes, but it's not a complete rewrite. So if you work in the financial sector or you work in the public relations sector, I can't see that you would exactly have to pivot your whole business. Not as much as the boiler meets water softener, water conditioner systems business pivot would do. There was recently a company I helped. They was selling STEM products. They started selling STEM, science, technology. They were selling STEM products to schools and universities. Had a pretty good little business on it too. They made some nice money off of it. But STEM, while it was very hot for about 3 or 4 years, eventually the STEM kind of like fell by the wayside, and STEM money dried up, funding money dried up. So they decided to pivot their business. So next thing you know, the company moves from a STEM, selling STEM educational kits and things like that. They moved to selling modular synthesizers, oddly enough. So how do you do that? How do you pivot? That's a complete that's even crossing industries. That's a completely different customer base with completely different products. Really tricky to do. So how do you like manage a website conversion when you still have to support those whole things? Because they had a lot of STEM kits still in circulation. So if somebody calls in with a warranty claim on that, they have to honor it. So somehow you have to be able to, I don't know, you have to support the old stuff, keep it in mind, keep a stock of it, and you have to make sure that you're developing and moving ahead your new idea at the same time. Very tricky to do. Very tricky to do. But if you start, like I say, it'll come back around. If you start your business knowing that chances are good, your original idea will not be the idea for the long haul. That will make it easier when the time comes to change. Plan a little bit for it. It's pretty good. 17, that's pretty good. We got like 23 concurrent viewers. I'm so happy with that. Thanks for coming here. It's pretty good. All right. How long do we go for? Let's go for the 40 minutes. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about next week, because we always come back. Let me see. There's a couple of things that we could talk about. We could talk about manufacturing in the basement. We could talk about ways to get things done in 2020, 2021, should I say? We're 3 weeks away. We talk about ways to get that done, but that's manufacturing things. Let's get away from that. We can talk about designing products. What does it look like as far as packaging goes? Again, that's in the things sector. I'm going to try to come up with some ideas for the next couple of shows in this series that have to do with providing service, customer service, advisement and consultation services, and how to really manage that, how to get started with that. I was involved in a couple of different businesses and startups that were in that industry because they got a couple of little contracts and they started to try to develop it into something that's going to make money over the long haul. So there were a couple of challenges in starting and maintaining that. So we could talk about that in the future if you want to. Pretty good. You know, a lot of chat. Okay, I think I'm going to knock it on the head, right? This has been DIY Startup with your host, John Ash, yours truly, giving good business advice to regular people with good business ideas. So I hope that you turn your idea into something. Worst thing that you can do is sit on an idea. To me, that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the worst thing that you can do. It's the biggest sin that you can commit. I don't know how many people that once you tell them that Once I tell them that I'm into the entrepreneur and I do a DIY startup live stream on YouTube every Friday night to help entrepreneurs just starting out in their business, you wouldn't believe how many people turn to me and go, "Oh man, I had the best idea about 10 years ago. You wouldn't even believe it. If I would have done it, it would have made me $1 million. Should have did it. You know, maybe you should move ahead on it. Even if you do something very, very small each and every week to move your idea forward, talk to one person. Try to meet somebody else. Talk to one person, talk to another person, just see what happens. Even if you just keep the idea in mind, make some notes, write things down. If you do one small thing to try to move your business ahead every single week, your idea will become reality. Next thing you know, guess what? You're an entrepreneur. You know, you have a successful business and all that stuff. So do what you can every single week, a little bit at a time, to move your idea, move your business ahead. You might be able to work yourself into a better life. You know, when you doing something that you actually are devoted to and enjoy. That's pretty good. Okay, last chance for questions in the chat. Give it a couple of minutes because there's a little bit. I see myself go up like that for a minute. All right. Yeah. All right. Good show, John. Thanks, Janine. Thanks a lot for that. Okay, I think I'm going to quit. The game down a little bit. All right. Okay, so this is the DIY Startup Show with John Ash. This is brought to you by the E2E Society. You can check out our website at e2esociety.com. There's a lot of good resources out there. Look for the local resources that are around you to help you start your business. If you think you're doing it alone, you're wrong. There's a lot of things that are there to help you out. There's a lot of organizations that are specifically geared toward small businesses, entrepreneurs, getting you to stay in their town with your business, because chances are pretty good if you start your business in their town, you have your supply chain in their town, your employees work in their town, you're renting in their town, your distribution is in their town if you have products, chances are really, really good that they want to do everything they can to make it so you can stay in that town. And they'll give you money, they'll give you advice, they'll give you help, they'll do all kinds of things and connect you with all different kinds of other entrepreneurs to help you move your business along and keep you going. So if you think you're doing it wrong, if you think you're doing it alone, you couldn't be more wrong. There's good resources like me and the people at E2E Society and CT Next and all of these other things. There's other tools that you can use that I think we're going to have a show on too. Maybe next week is going to be the show. We'll talk about different programs and different things that you can get involved in to help your business move ahead a little bit. We could talk about something called business incubators. Google that. We could talk about something called accelerators. I know somebody who's involved in an accelerator right now. And I think that they're going to come on the show in a couple of weeks to give a brief assessment of what their experience with that is or was, depending on if it's finished. There's business incubators, accelerators. I can't recommend shared spaces anymore, like the Beehive and WeWork, because those things were good at the time, but they're not really practical in current times because of obvious reasons. But they were fantastic places because you rent basically co-working spaces, co-locating spaces. You rent a desk with an internet connection and a telephone. And right next to you is somebody else with a completely different business. They're renting a desk and a telephone and internet connection. And then across from you, there's another person renting a desk with a completely different business. You get a room full of people with completely different businesses, and you know what happens? It's kind of like Mercury. You're like, poof, you go together, you start talking to people, you start seeing people every single day, and the next thing you know, you both come up with a good idea. Maybe an idea that can could incorporate both of your ideas. And that's how things get started. Look at the greatest, look at some of the greatest companies in the world. That's exactly how it got started. Two people had good ideas and they got together and they made it. Google, 2 people. Apple, 2 people. Well, Apple was more than 2 people. And Google, I think, was 3 actually. Sergey Brin and I think Google was 3 people. But it's a couple of people that got together with different ideas and came together to focus their idea. And next thing you know, bang, they got a good direction to move in. Maybe that can be you too. So look around your local region to find some resources that can help you. There's a lot of colleges Colleges are a fantastic resource. They have tons and tons of things devoted to helping small businesses develop, especially if it's a business school, naturally. Um, they'll have whole departments and whole staff and administration devoted to helping small businesses develop. That's exactly what you want. That's exactly what you want to look for. You want to look for help. You know, help. Can't do it that way, but you could look around, you could snoop around, and you can find new help and new resources to help you grow. You know? So that's my best advice: is to look around, start talking to other people. Like I said, everybody has had a fantastic idea in the past. Oh, I had a great idea in the past. It could have made me a fortune, but I didn't act on it. Well, you should have did a little something every single day to move it ahead, and maybe we'll have a successful business. So, I think that's the end of the show because there's nothing else in the chat. Thanks to Janine, thanks to Lauren, thanks to Dan to being in the chat and joining me, spending some time. I got 25 confirmed viewers. That's a lot. Very happy about that. Let's try to build it. Okay. Tell everybody you know about the show. Come back every week, and you can watch it too if you want to. Because it's there in perpetuity on YouTube. Everybody see me talking to myself in my life. This is John Ash from DIY Startup. Thanks a lot for spending time with me, and thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week. Thank you.